Inspiration doesn't always strike when something clicks. Sometimes it shows up in what's missing. About 9 months ago, I watched Ninjon underpaint a mini with 4 colors using one airbrush, and something about it just felt incomplete. Why swap paints, flush the cup, break your rhythm, when the solution was with us all along? Thinking like an operations manager or a software dev, the idea hit me hard. Why not turn this serial process into a parallel one? I already had 4 airbrushes. I knew manifolds existed, so why had I never seen this in miniature painting before? That spark became an experiment, and that experiment changed the way that I airbrushed forever. Because suddenly, I wasn't just solving problems, I was unlocking possibilities. Look, the first time I saw someone do a multicolor underpainting with one airbrush, I didn't roll my eyes, I squinted. And in that moment, between what was happening and what could have happened, something clicked. Most people treat an airbrush like a powered up bristle brush. One hose, one color, one cleanup loop after another. But that mindset, that's the bottleneck, not the tool. In Ninjon's recent video, where he calls airbrushes a scam, he hits on quite a few pain points, but here are the 3 main ones. Color swapping kills the flow, cleaning wastes time, and the paint just doesn't behave. And honestly, I get it. When I've previously used an airbrush like that, I've had very similar frustrations. But what if the airbrush isn't something you have to work around, but a tool that you can manipulate into your workflow without uncertainty and stress? I didn't plan to run 4 airbrushes. I just kind of started collecting them. You know how it goes. Anyway, after getting a manifold and hooking it up, I'd put shade in one brush, highlight in another, and 2 midtones in the remaining 2 brushes with differing hues. And just like that, color swaps, instant. Mistakes, easy to fix. Flow, unbroken. Staying in the flow isn't a problem for me anymore. It's actually knowing when to stop. It's usually when my finger starts to get sore and I'm worried about doing permanent nerve damage to my trigger finger. Pair that setup with the right paint, formulated for fine detail airbrushing, not mini paints designed for opacity. And then you don't just fix the pain points, you kind of just sidestep them completely. Now look, I'm not saying that everybody should go out there and build out their own hobby Hydra, but if you already have the gear, or you suffered the same frustrations that Ninjon brings up in his video, there is another way. And that's what this video is all about. Here's the first thing that grinds John's gears.
You can certainly use an airbrush for this underpainting step too, which is just fine, but then I'd have to clean out the airbrush between each color. I prefer a big fat brush so I can just slap it on and move on with my life.
Yeah, I remember that. Color swapping is a mood killer, but only if you're using one brush. That's why I stopped treating the airbrush like a one at a time tool and started thinking of it like a system. One for each color, no cleaning, no swapping, no hesitation. This is what unlocked real flow for me. I can hit a model with shadows, midtones, and pop highlights without breaking rhythm. You don't need 4 airbrushes, but if you've got more than one sitting on your bench, you might be sitting on a well of solutions. Look, I'm not saying everyone needs 4 airbrushes to live the dream, but let's be real. John's got 9. You could paint a tank battalion and an Imperial Knight at the same time, my guy. You've already got the army, John. Time to start using some combined arms tactics. Next up, John's not pleased with how unforgiving airbrushes can be.
And all the while, praying you do not make any mistakes, because you cannot simply just fix a mistake that's made with an airbrush. You see, the smooth, soft layers of an airbrush can't be cleaned up with a regular brush because it'll look completely different.
He's right again. If your kit is lacking and your paint is fighting you, mistakes start to feel permanent. But when you've got a shade, midtones, and highlights preloaded, you can just flow backward and layer the fix right in. Too much shadow? Bring it up. Highlight overblown? Dial it down. Feather it all back into balance. And if you're using Createx illustration paints, you've got one more trick. You can erase overspray for up to 48 hours. Like literally erase it. That's wizardry.
Airbrush Unchained.
I make mistakes all the time. That's not the problem. The question is, can you fix them fast, clean, and without killing the flow? In the Airbrush Unchained series final episode, I will be taking a deeper dive on using the Createx Illustrations paint range, how to properly mix it, how to remove what you don't want, and how to seal in the magic. Alright, this one hits home for a lot of folks.
I actually don't even use regular acrylic primer anymore. Too many times this stuff has clogged up my airbrush. No matter which brand, this stuff is basically liquid plastic, and at a certain point in that bottle, it is going to cause havoc on your airbrush.
That'll happen. But let's be real. That's not your airbrush misbehaving. That's your paint screaming for help. Most miniature paints are loaded with titanium white and other opaque pigments to boost coverage. Great for a bristle brush, not so great when atomizing fine detail. Createx illustration paints were designed for this. No white in the colors, smoother atomization, and best of all, they play nice with your needle. With the right paint, you're mitigating inevitable problems, so you can keep the paint flowing as long as possible. You want coverage, control, erasability? You're not going to get that by diluting mini paints and praying to the thinning gods. I recommend starting out with a basic set, maybe the primaries or cyan, magenta, yellow, plus black and white. Because the paints are transparent, you create blends and transitions live on the mini and can get pretty crazy results with just a few colors. Let's hear what John has to say about cleanup.
Or any other number of issues will certainly arise when you least want them to. Now, just like any other tool, you will quickly learn how to diagnose, totally disassemble, and fix the issue. But the last thing I want to do when I really want to get a paint job complete is to spend an hour or more taking apart, cleaning, and putting this back together, and hoping I don't lose any parts or screw it up even worse. So I've done that.
Honestly, he's not wrong. If you clean your airbrush like that after every use, you'll spend more time maintaining than actually painting. But most of that pain is self-inflicted. You don't have to fully break down your airbrush unless something's really gone sideways. I clean all 4 of my airbrushes in under 10 minutes. No full disassembly, no ritual sacrifice.
Airbrush Unchained.
There's a better method, one that I learned from the art workshop that's changed the way that I clean entirely. No more losing nozzles, no more O-rings going AWOL. And if things have gone seriously wrong with your airbrush, you can watch the video that I just posted on how to clean your airbrush after using lacquer paints. That method will clean the nastiest, dirtiest airbrush to sparkly fresh in less than 15 minutes. Now here's where John hits something real.
Painting in a flow state and really getting entrenched in a project and just having fun painting gets chopped up so much with an airbrush. Because when you're in the zone, you want to ride that wave and enjoy the process. I don't want to clean the airbrush after I use it for 10 seconds.
That zone is sacred. I get it. But the tool's not the enemy. The bottleneck is. Swapping paints, chasing clogs, losing pressure. Of course that breaks the rhythm. But if you eliminate those interruptions, what's left is pure flow. With 4 brushes loaded, I don't stop. I just pivot. Darken with shade, bounce back with highlight. Feather, nudge, fix. I've airbrushed so long in a session that I seriously thought that I gave my trigger finger permanent nerve damage. I've lost a bit of sensitivity at the tip and it did not come back for a couple days. It isn't about having the fanciest rig or the most expensive brush. It's about building a workflow that flows with you. Airbrush Unchained is all about that rhythm. Episode 4, that's where we're going to dive deep into gradient feathering and how to ride a wave from start to finish.
Tubular.
Now this one made me really scratch my head.
You aren't creating drama and big jumps without blowing out the entire figure with this lighter color, covering a majority of the work you've already done thus far. And even more importantly, you aren't actually learning how light interacts with different shapes.
Thing is, spraying paint down at a mini is mimicking light. It wraps, it grazes, it catches edges, and it builds volumes. It basically removes the fog of war and illuminates the map. If you pay attention, you're not skipping the lesson, you're witnessing it. The brush interprets, the airbrush reveals. Look, I didn't invent airbrush manifolds, or create text paints, or the idea of layering shades to get a light map, but I might be one of the only miniature painters on YouTube using them all this way. To me, innovation isn't about big declarations or new tools. It's about refusing to accept friction as a given. It's about looking at the space between what's normal and what's possible and saying, there's something better here. Let's find it. Was I being a bit extra when I connected 4 airbrushes? Sure. But in that excess, I found speed, ease, control, and flow. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. Creating with less stress, more joy, and a process that actually serves you. If that sounds like wizardry, maybe it is. If you made it this far, I really appreciate your time. This video isn't about taking down someone else's process or belittling their opinions. It's about defending the tools that deserve more credit. Not everyone vibes with airbrushes. I get it. They can clog, frustrate, and feel like a hassle. But they can also unlock flow, preserve detail, and paint like light itself. I'm no pro airbrusher, but I am a wizard. Here to teach you how to think for yourself, not follow someone else's frustrations. If you want more evidence, data, and demonstration to bolster your own understanding of the craft, the Airbrush Unchained series is where I bear it all. Not because I have all the answers, but because I ask broader questions and show you the results. And if that resonates with you, whether you're a tinkerer, a black sheep, or just someone who wants to paint in peace, you're already part of this circle. Welcome. If this video made you rethink your setup, or you think John might need a manifold in his life, drop a comment below and let him know. Tag him, challenge him. Let's cast this spell wide. Let's see if we can summon his attention the wizard way. John, if you're watching this, you've got 9 airbrushes. All you're missing is a manifold. So here's the challenge. Grab a manifold and test out this system. Then ask if airbrushes are a scam, or were we just using them wrong? You can check out the affiliate links below to the gear that I talk about and that I use on the regular for my own miniature painting. And I get a small kickback from that. So thanks for those of you that support me that way. Whether you know me as Inslow Greymane, the Wily Wizard, or Night Owl Forge, you can always count on me to elevate the craft and speak truth to authority. Until next time, keep mixing, keep flowing, and stay inspired.